A new Broncos stadium is the kind of topic that immediately gets people talking about real estate. Will home values go up nearby? Should investors be looking around Burnham Yard? Could it change the way buyers think about central Denver? Is it good for homeowners? Or does it bring more traffic, uncertainty, and construction? These are the questions people are going to ask. But the answers are not as simple as stadium equals appreciation. Real estate does not work that cleanly. A major stadium project can influence an area, but the actual impact depends upon the details around it. So the surrounding development matters. Transportation matters. Parking definitely matters. And the neighborhood identity even matters. Buyers' behavior, it matters. And so does the timeline. Because a project like this is going to unfold over years, not weeks. So today I want to talk about the Broncos stadium conversation from a real estate perspective. Not from the fan side, not from all the hype, from the homeowner, buyer, and investor side. Because if Burnham Yard becomes the future home of the Broncos, the stadium itself is only part of the story. The bigger real estate question is, what's going to happen around it? How the city of Denver will plan for it, and whether or not those areas surrounding it nearby become more desirable, more complicated, or even a mix of both. Let's start with the basic context. The Broncos have identified Burnham Yard as the preferred site for a new retractable roof stadium and mixed-use district. The Burnham Yard is a historic former rail yard near the I-25 corridor, less than a mile east and south of Empower Field at Mile High. That location is important because this is not a stadium proposal on open land that would be located far outside the city. This is a central Denver redevelopment site near existing neighborhoods, transit conversations, major roads, downtown, and the current stadium area. That makes the real estate impact even more layered. When a project is this large, the conversation isn't only about what gets built, it also is about how people start to talk about that area. How do you move through it? What kinds of businesses and housing are coming? And whether or not the surrounding neighborhoods feel more connected or more pressured around time. That's why in this video, we're going to avoid making blanket predictions. Some properties may become more interesting to buyers because of proximity, access, and future amenities. Other locations may feel too close to event traffic, construction, and even activity. A homeowner just one block away from a key access point may have a very different experience than someone that's several blocks away in a quieter pocket. Real estate is very specific, and that's the point. So the question isn't, will the Broncos Stadium raise values? A better question is, what should buyers and investors and homeowners be watching from the announcement? What should homeowners and buyers watch as this plan moves from announcement to reality? The first thing I'd watch is whether or not this becomes a true mixed-use reality. Or is it just another stadium with surrounding use supports? That distinction is going to matter a lot. A stadium by itself, it's active on game days, concerts, the major events. A mixed-use district can create a more consistent daily rhythm if it includes a restaurant, housing, public spaces, entertainment, hotels, offices, retail, or community amenities that people are actually using throughout the week. Those two outcomes feel very different from a real estate standpoint. But the surrounding district becomes active on game day. Buyers may begin to see more locations as a complete urban lifestyle. And that can help certain properties feel more connected, more convenient, and definitely more interesting. But if the experience is mostly event-driven, the benefits may be more limited and the inconveniences may stand out more. That is why I would pay close attention to the actual plan, not just the stadium renderings. What's getting built around it? How much housing is included? Are there public spaces that people are going to use when there's no games going on? Do restaurants and services, do they make the area feel active year-round? And does the district connect naturally to nearby neighborhoods? Or does it feel like a separate destination where people drive into it and then they leave? Those questions are going to tell you more than the headline. That second thing to watch is going to be transportation. A stadium is not just the building. It's going to be a traffic event repeated over and over and over again. People need to arrive, park, walk, take a transit, get picked up, and leave. And move through surrounding streets without overwhelming the area. And believe me, that is not a small challenge in a central Denver area location. If transportation's handled well, the project could improve access and connectivity around Burnham Yard. Better walkways, transit connections, bike routes, road improvements, and public infrastructure could make the surrounding area. Poor planning, well, that's going to create a difficult outcome. Homeowners nearby should watch how the city and the Broncos address game day movement. Rideshare zones, parking, pedestrian, safety. and the overall access between Burnham Yard and the surrounding neighborhoods. That may sound technical, but it becomes very impersonal after you already live around it. Are you able to get home easily on event days? Are the side streets being protected from cut-through traffic? Does transit reduce the pressure, or do most people still drive? And how is parking going to affect surrounding blocks? Are road improvements going to help residents, or are they mostly going to serve the stadium? Those answers are going to matter for long-term livability. That third thing I'd watch is neighborhood perception. Real estate value is not only square footage and finishes, buyer perception plays a major role in all of that. Before major development happens, an area may be described one way. After the project gains momentum, people often start using different language. A formal industrial or underused area can become a future entertainment district. A redevelopment corridor or a new urban hub, that shift can influence attention. Attention, that brings buyers, and more buyer attention can affect pricing only if people's actual experience supports the story that people are telling it. This is where people need to be careful. Perception can move faster than reality. A stadium announcement can create excitement before the infrastructure, housing, retail, public spaces, and neighborhood improvements are actually in place. If you're going to buy because you expect immediate appreciation from a headline, that is speculation. A more grounded approach is going to be asking yourself whether the area actually makes sense today. Would you still like that location if the project takes longer than expected? Does that current home, street, access, and the neighborhood fit your life? And are you going to be comfortable with years of planning changes, construction, and movement? Would your future stadium decision make your life better, or is it carrying your whole decision for being there? That's the difference between buying with strategy and buying in excitement. The fourth thing to be watching for is how nearby neighborhoods are being affected. Burnham Yard does not sit in an isolation area. It is near existing communities with history, residents, businesses, and long-standing concerns about affordability, traffic, displacement, and quality of life. And that part of the conversation is going to matter. Large redevelopment projects can bring investment, but investment can create pressure if it's not handled correctly. Nearby residents, they may want better infrastructure, public spaces, local business support, housing protections, and a voice in how the area is going to change. From a real estate standpoint, the strongest outcome could be or should be a plan that improves the area without overwhelming the people and the neighborhoods that are already there. So buyers should pay attention to the community planning process, and so should homeowners. Are the local concerns being addressed? Is affordable housing part of that discussion? Will the public spaces serve the broader community? Are transportation improvements designed for the residents as well as event visitors? And does the plan create connection? Or does it put in place a boundary between the new district and the surrounding current neighbors? Believe me, those answers are going to shape how the area feels over time. The fifth thing to be watching is the old stadium site. If the Broncos eventually move from Empower Field to Burnham Yard, that current stadium area, Empower Field, becomes a whole separate conversation. That site's already a major location with access, land, visibility, and history. If that current stadium area is redeveloped in the future, the west side of Denver could see another major planning story. So this is not only about Burnham Yard. One stadium decision could create two major redevelopment decisions. What happens at the new site and what eventually happens around the old one. It doesn't mean that anyone should make assumptions today, but it does mean that homeowners, buyers, and investors should watch both sides of the story. Sometimes the most interesting real estate impact is not where the new project goes. It can also show up where the old use leaves behind opportunity. Now, let's talk about homeowners near Burnham Yard. If you already own near the area, I would not rush to conclusions. A major project may increase attention, but attention alone does not tell you what your home is worth. So what that means is your property's condition still matters. Your block matters, noise exposure matters, access matters, parking matters, inventory, interest rate, affordability, and buyer demand all still matter. A stadium district can influence the market, but it does not replace the fundamentals. What I'd start to watch is buyer language. Are agents mentioning Burnham Yard in listings? Are buyers starting to ask about proximity? Are investors becoming more active around the area? And are homes closer to certain access points getting more attention? Are buyers avoiding areas that feel too affected by construction and traffic? The market behavior is going to tell that story before broad statistics do. If you own nearby, the real story is how your specific property might properly be positioned. A home in a quieter pocket with good access may be viewed very differently than a property exposed directly to access. That is why real estate advice here needs to be specific. Now, what about buyers? If you're considering buying near Burnham Yard, I would definitely start with your lifestyle. not the hope of appreciation. Ask yourself, do I really want to live near a major stadium district? That kind of location can be exciting. You may get access to restaurants, events, transit, entertainment, public spaces, and even a more urban lifestyle. For some buyers, that's exactly the real appeal. Other buyers, they're going to hate that same experience. Event traffic, crowds, noise, construction, changing street patterns, and busier surroundings will definitely wear on someone who wants quiet and predictability. Neither buyer's wrong, they're choosing different lives. So, before buying near the stadium conversation, drive that area at different times. Look at the streets you would actually use. Think through your normal week. Pay attention to where the services are today, not only what could be built later. A future district may add value to your life, but you have to live through that transition, and that matters. For investors, the stadium conversation is tempting because it feels like the obvious story. A major development, central location, a team investment, mixed-use plans, and lots of public attention. All that can create interest, but obvious stories can also attract crowded thinking. If everyone is chasing the same assumption, pricing can move before the fundamentals are fully supported. That's where the investors are going to need some discipline. I would not evaluate investment only to the proposed stadium. I would look at the zoning, the rent demand, the property condition, the holding costs, the renovation needs, the financing, the insurance, taxes, the tenant profile, and the realistic overall timeline for the district. A property 5 blocks away is not automatically better than one 15 blocks away. Better investment may be the one with stronger fundamentals, better access, less downside, and a clear use case. Investors should only watch policy conversions closely. Community benefits, affordability requirements, the zoning changes, the infrastructure improvements, and neighborhood protections can all affect that investment picture. Again, this is not just a sports story, it's a land use story. Now, let's address the question everybody wants answered directly. Could the Broncos Stadium increase home values nearby? It could help certain properties if the broader district improves access, amenities, perception, and year-round activity in a way that buyers value. A well-planned mixed-use environment can make nearby locations feel more convenient and more desirable. That's the positive case. But the other side is just as important. Some properties may become less appealing to certain buyers. If traffic, noise, parking pressure, construction, or event congestion becomes too much, a buyer who wants a calm residential setting may not pay a premium to be close to stadium activity. So the honest answer is this: the impact will probably not be uniform. Real estate around a major project usually becomes more segmented, not less. Best positioned properties may benefit from improved perception and access. Locations with the wrong kind of exposure may begin to face more buyer hesitation. Much demand is on that final plan, surrounding infrastructure, and how the district feels once people are actually using it. That's why I wouldn't make promises around appreciation. I would watch all the indicators, look for the confirmed plans, not just the concepts, track all the infrastructure commitments, and follow the city planning process. And also pay attention to community response. Watch how buyers are beginning to talk about the area. Compare properties based on actual livability, not just proximity. That is a much smarter way to think about it. The biggest mistake someone could make is buying near Burnham Yard purely because of the Denver Broncos name. The Broncos brand definitely creates attention, but attention is not the same thing as long-term value. The value comes from demand, the usability, the condition, scarcity, affordability, and the quality of the surrounding environment. If the stadium district strengthens those things, certain nearby locations, they could become more compelling. But when the final experience creates too much distribution for a particular buyer pool, the impact may be more mixed. So here's the framework I would use. First, ask whether or not that area is going to work for you today. Second, study what's actually planned. Third, understand that timeline. Fourth, think about the lifestyle that's created by the stadium district. Finally, compare the opportunity against all the trade-offs. That framework will keep you from getting pulled too far in either direction. You do not have to dismiss the project as just traffic and construction. And you should definitely not assume that it automatically creates appreciation for every nearby homeowner. And in real estate, specific is where the useful answers are. If you're a homeowner near Burnham Yard, this is something to watch closely. If you're a buyer, do not let the headline make the decision for you. Because for investors, the opportunity that may be real, but the fundamentals still need to work. If you're somewhere else in Denver or the South Metro, this still matters because large projects can shift attention across the entire market. When one area is getting a major new identity, buyers will begin to start comparing locations differently. And that definitely affects where people begin to look, what they value, and how they talk about access, convenience, and long-term growth. So the Broncos Stadium conversation, it's worth watching. Not because it gives us guaranteed answers on home values. It is worth watching because it may become one of Denver's most important redevelopment stories over the next few years. In future videos, I'll keep breaking down the Denver Metro, Castle Rock, Parker, Lone Tree, Highland Ranch, and Castle Pine, so you can understand what is changing and how those changes may affect your real estate decisions. Because a smart move is not based on the loudest headline. It is based on what that headline can actually change in your day-to-day life and your neighborhood's long-term plan.